Welcome to This Explainer. We're embarking on a really fascinating journey today, mapping out the vast and honestly often completely hidden landscape of human feeling. We're going to travel all the way from the tangible, observable, physical science of the body, right down into the esoteric depths of the human subconscious. Think of it like an iceberg. We're starting on the visible surface, and then we're plunging straight down into the dark, heavy waters below.
So let's kick things off with a question I know we've all wondered about at some point. Can we ever truly hide how we feel? Whether you're trying to mask a little white lie, suppress a massive crush, or just hide your anxiety in a high-pressure meeting, we put an incredible amount of energy into curating what we show the world. But, as we're about to see, the truth has a very funny way of leaking out anyway. To uncover exactly how this works, we're going to decode the human emotional system layer by layer. We'll hit windows to the soul, the science of emotional leakage, the hidden depths of the moon, absorbing unseen emotional energies, and finally, transformation and intimate bonds. Let's dive right in. Section 1. Windows to the soul, the physical manifestation of emotion. Let's start right on the surface of our faces, because before we even utter a single syllable, our physical bodies are already broadcasting our internal state. Just think about it. When you see someone you love, a rush of dopamine actually forces your pupils to expand. It's a completely involuntary sign of attraction. On the flip side, a sudden jolt of adrenaline from surprise or fear will widen those pupils and open your eyes completely. Catch someone blinking rapidly? Yeah, you're likely looking at a lot of stress. Narrowed eyes signal intense focus, while downcast eyes often communicate sadness or just a desire to avoid contact altogether. Our biology is quite literally wired to broadcast our feelings. Now, check out the contrast here. When asked a question, a truth-teller often looks up and to the left as they access genuine memories. But if their gaze darts up and to the right, they might be constructing a fabricated response or, simply put, lying. Actually, to be fair, the source material notes this isn't a flawless polygraph, since sometimes people just need to look around to think, but it's still a really fascinating piece of the nonverbal puzzle. Get this, a staggering 70 to 90% of our communication is entirely nonverbal. That is absolutely massive when you think about it, and it makes our eyes a critical part of this silent dialogue. We're constantly exchanging volumes of information without ever opening our mouths. But what happens when we actively try to shut that communication down? That brings us to Section 2, the science of emotional leakage, why we can't hide. Because, spoiler alert, no matter how good your poker face is, science tells us the truth finds a way out. This introduces a concept known as nonverbal leakage. This happens when someone verbalizes one thing, but their body language completely betrays them. Even when you consciously try to mask your true intentions, these involuntary movements give you away. Psychologist Paul Ekman studied this extensively, and he found that while we might try to control our main expressions, tiny micro-expressions and body gestures practically leak our authentic emotional state. And this concept actually dates back way further than modern psychology. Charles Darwin formulated what's called the inhibition hypothesis. This lends incredible historical weight to the idea that intense emotions just cannot be voluntarily suppressed. Darwin hypothesized that our facial muscles are so intricately tied to our emotional centers that when a feeling is strong enough, the conscious mind is simply too weak to stop the physical reaction. And modern studies completely back Darwin up on this. Look at this number. An astonishing 98.3% of participants express emotional leakage when trying to conceal a high-intensity emotion. That means almost every single person, regardless of how cool and collected they think they are, gives themselves away when the emotional stakes are high enough. No exceptions. Think about your own quirks when you're nervous. While deceivers might fake a confident smile, their tapping fingers or shifting legs are silently screaming the truth. The face is super expressive, sure, but because we know people are looking right at it, it's the very first thing we try to control. We totally forget about our limbs. Restless foot kicks, defensive knee holding, picking at fingernails, these are controlled by a much weaker conscious filter. You cap the face, and the emotion just leaks straight out through the hands and feet. All right, let's shift gears for Section 3, Hidden Depths of the Moon, the Astrological Subconscious. Having explored the tangible science, our source material now provides a totally different esoteric lens for understanding why some folks hide their emotional lives so fiercely.
Take a look at how these two specific astrological placements, the 8th and 12th houses, create an inner emotional world that is basically invisible to everyone else. In astrology, the moon represents our inner life, right? Placed in the 8th house, it points to someone who experiences emotions with just volcanic intensity. They possess this wild psychological X-ray vision for other people's motives. On the flip side, a moon in the 12th house creates more of an empathic mystic. Their emotions are oceanic. They have profound psychic sensitivity, often absorbing the feelings of the whole collective rather than just their own.
But here's the crucial part. According to these traditions, both placements hide their emotional truth, not to be malicious or deceitful, but as a deep, ingrained survival strategy. For the 8th house moon, the instinct to hide stems from a fear of betrayal, power struggles, and abandonment wounds. They trust very slowly to avoid being emotionally crushed. The 12th house moon hides because of emotional neglect, a painful loss of boundaries, and a history of silent suffering. They just disappear into their inner world so they aren't a burden to anyone.
Which brings us to Section 4, absorbing unseen emotional energies, the empathic reality. This goes far, far beyond just reading a room. We're talking about physically feeling it.
Have you ever absorbed the heavy mood of a room without knowing why? Like your own feelings were just instantly blending with everyone around you? According to Vedic astrology sources, emotion fundamentally shifts its nature here. It's no longer a personal possession. It behaves like a field. It passes through the mind, sure, but it doesn't always originate there. You might perceive profound sadness or anxiety without any personal reason for it, simply registering the emotional residue left behind by others.
For these deep lunar placements, the emotional field is like an open portal rather than a sealed container. This gives them incredible intuition, but leaves them super vulnerable. They can absorb a partner's distress or even take on unresolved ancestral memory. And most intriguingly, they know exactly what others are hiding. They pick up on the very nonverbal leakage we discussed earlier, but they process it on a much deeper, almost spiritual level.
Okay, final stop. Section 5, transformation and intimate bonds, healing the depths. Because knowing we leak all these emotions is really only half the battle. What do we actually do with all this intensity?
Healing requires us to stop hiding from our own emotional truths and start integrating them. The path forward involves 3 really vital steps. 1, naming buried emotions without shame, getting them out of the dark. 2, building firm emotional boundaries so you aren't completely overwhelmed by the emotional leakage of the world around you. And 3, transforming that innate secrecy into conscious vulnerability. Trust doesn't require total control, guys. True intimacy only comes from allowing yourself to actually be seen.
And the best part is that these deep emotional natures are absolutely not doomed to suffering. They have the potential to reach incredible emotional mastery when they do the work. An integrated 8th house moon becomes the ultimate emotional alchemist or therapist, a truth seeker who isn't afraid of the dark. An integrated 12th house moon becomes a spiritual guide and an empathic mystic, using their oceanic compassion to heal others without losing themselves in the process.
Wow, so we've traced an incredible journey in this explainer today. We moved from the scientific surface of our physical bodies, where our dilated pupils and shifting feet betray our lies, right down into the invisible, esoteric depths of the human soul. Whether it's through a tiny micro-expression on your face or an energetic field you absorb in a crowded room, the overarching truth is exactly the same. Our emotions fundamentally demand to be seen, processed, and integrated.
Armed with the hard science of nonverbal leakage and this esoteric understanding of deep emotional absorption, I want to leave you with this final thought. Next time you look into someone's eyes, will you simply see what they are showing you, or will you finally have the power to see what they are trying to hide?